Hi, this is Adam Schefter from ESPN. Please join us on the latest Know Them From Adam podcast with Dwight Howard as he talks about Kobe Bryant, James Harden, and the one young NBA player he'd pay to see.
This is The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio or on the ESPN app.
Getting your weekend started here on The Right Time with Bomani Jones. It's ESPN Radio, ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Bomani is off today. Jonathan Hood and Jeff Dickerson. Dickerson and Hood filling in. And we are presented by Progressive Insurance. A very happy NBA All-Star weekend to you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Now I can exhale, finally. What a crazy first half of the NBA season. And now off to a terrific All-Star weekend in New Orleans, and then right back into the season next week. But we got plenty to talk about as we move forward with the NBA season. A lot of storylines that we didn't expect. A lot of things are looking up for a lot of good teams here in the league.
And we'll be all over NBA All-Star Weekend in New Orleans. Amin Elhassan, our buddy, our ESPN front office insider, joins us about 30 minutes from now. But, Jonathan, let's start with the story that broke late in the show with Bomani yesterday, and that's what's going on with the Jets and Darrelle Revis. Darrelle Revis is now facing 4 charges, including aggravated assault, after being involved in an alleged street fight that witnesses say left 2 men unconscious. The men told police they were punched by Revis after a verbal altercation early Sunday. I've covered a ton of these types of stories, being an NFL guy for ESPN, and what I can always say is you got to wait until all the facts come out. Like, it's very easy for us to sit here today and say, well, Darrelle Revis, he's 31. Jonathan, he had a bad year for the Jets last season. He's got a lot of money coming up as far as roster bonuses and guarantees. He's in this fight now. Guys are unconscious. You got to let him go. But you tell me, I mean, you read this story, there's a lot of suspicious behavior, not just by Darrelle Revis, but what about the 2 guys that supposedly were walking up to him and following him and filming them with their iPhones? Something here doesn't quite add up for me.
I think it's very odd, number one, that they're filming Darrelle Revis. Again, this according to the story, 2:43 in the morning, where it's on the south side of Pittsburgh, and Revis, being someone that's from the area, from Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, went to University of Pittsburgh. And so this all happens. Number one, don't you find it strange that they're trying to videotape Revis? What are you doing that for? I mean, give this guy his privacy, give him his space. And number two, now they're knocked out. I mean, was Revis Superman? Is he doing that by himself, a 1-on-2? Is he Andre the Giant? Is something that we don't know about Darrelle Revis and his strength as a veteran in this league? I just find the whole story very suspicious.
Hey, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, half the cost. I question the credibility, quite frankly, of these guys that he supposedly knocked out. Now maybe it happened. I don't have the facts, exactly what took place. No one does yet. That's up to the police and the investigators to figure out. But look, I don't care who you are. Who wants to be followed and filmed by complete strangers? It doesn't matter if you're a celebrity. It doesn't matter if you're an ordinary person. That type of behavior, that's not right. And like you said about him being Superman, the story says that these guys were knocked out for 10 minutes. Can that be real? What kind of punch is Darrelle Revis throwing, or his associate, whomever did it, that's going to lay a guy out for 10 minutes? That does not seem believable. I'm sorry.
And that's just from the accounts of the guys. I mean, how would you know? Doctors can tell, you know what, man, you got knocked out for 10 minutes. Looks like about 10 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes. How do you even know? But here's the thing, that if it is true that those guys were following Darrelle Revis, you know what it's become now in 2017 is that everyone is a reporter. Everyone wants to be TMZ. Everyone wants to be in a position where they could say that, hey, you know what, I got Revis coming out of a bar. This guy's a bum. Look at him. He's stumbling and all this kind of stuff. And so outside of just saying, hey, can I get your autograph, which used to be the thing back in the day, can I get your autograph, or hey, can we take a picture? Now you're going to videotape a guy? Still, that's still unfortunate, and it shouldn't be happening, where someone thinks that they're part of the media now, that they can start filming Darrelle Revis no matter what was going on in that bar or the place that he's coming out of.
I mean, it's not like that's going to really make front page news, is it? Hey, I've got this 30-second video of Darrelle Revis. Hello, TMZ. Want to put it on? Hello, Sports Center.
I mean, that's front page on TMZ.com on a slow day. I mean, you know how that is. There's Harvey there with his drink, and he goes, "What do you got?" And then one of the reporters says, "Hey, I got Darrelle Revis. He's coming out of a bar at 2:43 in the morning, and he knocks out two guys, and there they are, stockpiled like cornwood over on the side there, and they were knocked out for 10 minutes. Interesting. All right, do we have anything on the Kardashians?"
I mean,
you know.
So the whole story is still kind of fluid here. His attorney says that Revis was, looking at some real estate investments, and that's why he was out so late in Pittsburgh, and that he was the victim here and everything. I just find it, never rush to judgment on these stories. But if you are the Jets, this is very convenient for you. If you were looking for an excuse to get rid of him, I guess now you have it. It's just a bummer for Darrelle Revis, because it shouldn't end this way. If it's clearly a football decision that they're moving on, and he gave them plenty of reasons last year to move on. Jonathan, he wasn't good. I mean, he just had a really bad year. He's going to make a lot of money. He's talked about taking a pay cut, maybe moving to safety. He's 31. He's not the same player he was when he was the best corner in the game, obviously. But it should, if he's let go, it just should be because his skills have eroded. It shouldn't be because of something like this, because we just don't have all the facts. But the timing is so unfortunate, because they do have to make this decision before the league year begins, or early in the league year in March, when this guaranteed roster bonus is due. But I hope they wait, let some of the facts come out, and then go about and make their decision. Because letting him go right now with these sketchy accounts, again, I think it's kind of ridiculous.
It is, and when you read the story on ESPN.com, Jeff, his attorney obviously is backing him, saying that it's no question that Darrelle Revis is the victim in all this. He never went out to try to start a fight. He has stellar credibility, which is true. I can't remember another story about Darrelle Revis being out at 2 o'clock in the morning and being into some scuffle. I think this might be the first time that I can remember Revis into something major like this. What about you? I don't remember.
Yeah, no. He supposedly off the field had a very good reputation. I mean, there's been controversies with Darrelle Revis, but I think most of those were just football related. I think he fired his agents not too long ago. He had the highly publicized holdout when the Jets were on Hard Knocks. I mean, there was some stuff, football stuff that was a little stressful, but there was never an incident in my mind that was a black mark against his character. I don't remember that. But this is the day and age that we live in. But again, I mean, you gotta wait. It's sensational when you see that two dudes have been, iced out in the street, and they're laying there for 10 minutes, and they're blaming Darrelle Revis. Of course, that's going to be our top story on ESPN.com, but to just assign guilt automatically isn't fair, because I don't know how I would react if guys are filming me and following me and harassing me down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning. And Revis's attorney said that, hey, maybe he thought that the guys were holding a weapon. When you turn around and see someone holding your phone, it's dark. You just don't know. There's just too much that we don't know, I think, to form a definite opinion on what happened.
Well, whatever happens here, again, with him on the field, I don't think that this will be the difference on whether or not he is going to be with the Jets or not. I think that they're going to more than likely pull the trigger and go younger at that position. And he said he's going to be a better player in 2017, says that even if he has to switch to safety, he's going to find a way to get on the field and be productive. So as far as him being a football player, that he's in the twilight of his career. Revis Island is not going to be open his entire career. You saw him struggle from a number standpoint. You saw it was the worst of his career, and now this happens. The hope is that for him, he can rebound from this in 2017, and hopefully when he's retired, I want to see that Superman punch in the ring, because if he knocked out two people, I want to see that on camera.
Maybe the blessing in all of this is if the Jets release him, the UFC will sign him.
Right.
Maybe he'll have a second career after football. And I think Revis Island sunk into the ocean last year, too. I think it's
bad.
gone.
Yeah,
it's like one of those islands you can't even see anymore. It's gone. We are brought to you by Upsides. Now save big on travel and get a big gift card every trip you buy. You'll love Upside.com. Upside.com. We love NBA All-Star Weekend taking place in New Orleans. Coming up next, what is Steve Kerr going to do with this whole Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant drama as far as minutes go this weekend? We'll hear from the head coach coming up next. This is Dickerson and Hood. We're in for Bomani. It's the right time on ESPN Radio.
I guarantee those producer types are probably going to hate me.
Hear how it all went down at the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game with Peter Rosenberg Monday morning on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
It's the right time on ESPN Radio. Bomani is off today. Dickerson and Hood filling in. All guests on the show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and reach us on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at TweetJHood, at Dickerson ESPN, at ESPN Radio. Here's the number one reason why I love NBA All-Star Weekend, Jonathan. It's because the NBA doesn't really take itself too seriously.
Right.
It's an exhibition game. That's all it is. It doesn't try to pawn itself off as something that is super serious. You want to watch these guys score a combined 375 points. Okay? You want to see threes. You want to see dunks. That's all you want to see. You don't want it to matter. You don't want it to count. You don't want to watch guys stepping over picks. I don't care about guys boxing out. I want to be entertained, and I feel the NBA, more than any of the other professional sports, except for, hockey's All-Star Weekend is pretty good, but that is hockey. The NBA does it right. I'm a fan.
Absolutely. It's always part of the culture, in the fabric of the NBA to understand, like, hey, we're going to see some fantastic dunks. We're going to see some crazy threes. The players, for the most part, all get together and get along, so they know what it is. Saturday's even better when you have that skills competition. Friday's always cool because now you've got the celebrities mixed in with some of the former players, and that's always great. So I just think that the All-Star Game for me is always a terrific event. I know that some of the old schoolers don't like the idea that there's no seriousness in it, but it's a whole different generation of just the greatest players, by the way, wanting to play in the NBA. I mean, unless there's some major injury, they actually want to be out there. They want to be part of the festivities, and so that's what makes it special for me.
Yeah, they want to be part of it because they're just going to have fun, and they're not going to really risk themselves or expose themselves to serious injuries by making the game count for, home court advantage in the NBA Finals. I mean, the stupidest thing that I've ever seen in my life that Major League Baseball did that with their All-Star Game. But the only serious, and I say this with the air quotes, the only serious story right now involving the actual game this weekend is what the Western Conference and what Steve Kerr is going to do with Russell Westbrook and all the Golden State Warriors on the roster, namely Kevin Durant. Will they play together? Will they end this Cold War? This was Steve Kerr on ESPN's Meet the All-Stars discussing how he might divvy up the playing time with Westbrook and Durant.
Now that we're here, I have given it more than 1 ounce of thought. But as of last week, I hadn't thought about it. But no, I've definitely considered it. That's the only thing that you have to do as a coach in the All-Star Game is to parcel out the minutes. That's it. I mean, you don't draw up any plays. At least I don't. I didn't 2 years ago. So we got to figure out the minutes, and I have thought about it, and I'm not going to share it with you here today.
Steve Kerr. See, you know what? Here's what we all have to learn about Steve Kerr as a coach of the Golden State Warriors. Here's someone that played, that was in the front office with Phoenix, someone that's been a broadcaster, and now the head coach of the hottest team in the NBA. If nothing else, Jeff, he gets it. He knows what this means to have Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant on the same team, more likely on the floor at the same time. He knows the storylines. If you know anything about the league, you know the storylines of how there's still beef there between the two. Going back to last Saturday, watching for the first time Kevin Durant going back to Oklahoma City, taking on Russell Westbrook. That was, even though I knew it was going to be a blowout, I knew that the Warriors would just completely obliterate an undermanned Thunder team. The drama is there with Westbrook and Durant because Westbrook did not get the connection with Durant. Durant did not call Westbrook to tell him, hey, I'm going to switch teams. It wasn't even a text. It wasn't even a communication. So that's why that this is going to be interesting to see the dynamic of both of those guys on the floor together. And
they will be on the floor together. And as you said, they should be. I mean, Steve Kerr does not need my advice, but I think this would be I'll take a page out of, PR 101, which so many teams struggle with. It will be a bigger story. It will be a bigger distraction if Westbrook and Durant don't play together this weekend. Then you open yourself up to the questions, well, you mean to tell me that they couldn't coexist for 7 or 8 minutes on the floor together in the All-Star game? I think if you're Steve Kerr, you put it to rest early. Like, you have those guys out there as soon as possible, as early as possible in the game, and you be done with it, right? Wouldn't that just end it? I mean, why perpetuate this storyline more than it needs to be drawn out? Put them out there, and no one can then say that, there was this great freeze-out or there was this boycott or they couldn't see eye to eye. It's a meaningless exhibition game. They should be on the floor together, and I'm sure they will be. They should be on the floor together. I think they will be on the floor together. I just know that this thing between the two is white heat. It's white hot. It's some tremendous heat between the two. You can see that in the game where Westbrook is telling Durant, looks over his shoulder, says, I'm coming for you. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm Durant, I'm looking at the scoreboard, it's like, yeah, but you might be coming for me, but I'm up 20. So, I mean, but I just think that it's so much drama that's going to be there. I want to know, I need a camera in the locker room before the game. I need to have NBA TV make sure that there's a camera there just to see the dynamic between the two. If they're separated, are there lockers side by side? Because it's that serious. Until Durant is actually stepping to Westbrook and explaining the situation, there's always going to be a problem. Westbrook was asked earlier this season, the first half, is there a relationship between you two? No relationship. There's no relationship. I mean, that's great television. That's great drama. So, yes, they need to be on the floor together. I just need to know with Westbrook, with the ball in his hands the lion's share of the time, how hard is that pass to Durant on the inside? Right, he's going to spike the ball off his face?
Like a baseball pass right to his noggin? I want to know how hard that pass is. Like, oh, you want the ball? Here's the ball right there. Out of bounds, and it will go to the east.
Westbrook's on the breakaway dunk, and he jumps up. Instead of dunking, he just turns, and Durant's trailing on the play and fires it at his face. It goes out of bounds.
You want the ball so bad? Here's the ball. Oh, right there, right to your head. Oh, sorry.
They should have the locker room cam, though. I'm going to guess that their lockers will be as far apart as they could possibly be. Like, one will be by the entrance and the other one will be by the trainer's room. Like, that's how far apart they're going to be separated.
I think, but if it's Steve Kerr, and he likes to rib people, and so it would not surprise me if the nameplate is right next to, if Durant and Westbrook, the nameplate's there, and Westbrook's like, no, he moves his nameplate over, and has someone else sit right next to Kevin Durant. See, Kerr's good for that. He loves to rib people, so it wouldn't surprise me if that is something that happens. But that's just one of the many storylines for All-Star Weekend I'm looking forward to seeing.
And NBA's All-Star Weekend does begin tonight. Check out the NBA Rising Stars Challenge, 9 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. Let's go to New Orleans coming up next and check in with our guy Amin Elhassan. That is coming up next. It's Dickerson and Hood. We're in for Bomani. It's the right time on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi, developing story. Jets cornerback Darrelle Revis expected to turn himself into police rather soon, according to his attorney. Revis is facing 4 charges, including aggravated assault, after being involved in an alleged street fight early Sunday morning that witnesses say left 2 men unconscious. The men told police they were punched by Revis after a verbal altercation. A Jets spokesman said they have talked to Revis but had no further comment. NBA, speaking on ESPN Radio's Meet the All-Stars show, Paul George said he still wants to lead the Pacers to their first championship, but he stopped short of saying it's guaranteed he'll sign the estimated $219 million extension the team's expected to offer him this summer. Meet the All-Stars airs 5:30 Eastern tomorrow on ESPN Radio. The NBA joined the NFL in suggesting Texas will be overlooked for future big events if state lawmakers pass a proposed bathroom bill targeting transgender people. An NBA spokesman said an environment where people are treated fairly and equally weighs heavily when the league chooses host locations. The NBA moved this year's All-Star game from Charlotte to New Orleans after North Carolina adopted its bathroom bill last year.
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
You've got the right time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. Dickerson and Hood sitting in today for Bomani. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll compare rates for you so you get the best deal, even if it's not with us, saving you time and money. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today. Busy weekend in New Orleans, site of the NBA All-Star Game and the All-Star Weekend festivities. We go out to our Shell Pennzoil Performance line and welcome in our good friend Amin Elhassan's with us on ESPN Radio. Let's start with the good stuff. Thumbs up or thumbs down, Amin, on Jimmy Butler's shirt today? Did you see that thing?
I did not see it.
Oh, you kidding me? You?
I'm working. I'm working out here, man. You got to think it's a vacation for me where I'm just sitting around looking at pictures of people's shirts. I'm out here making connections at the technology summit. I'm talking to people. I'm doing the show. I just got done doing the jump. I'm a busy guy, man. You guys gotta let me know.
All right. Well, you got to Google that shirt. And I'm telling you, before we're done, Google that shirt. It is something.
So while you've been around, what have you heard as far as trade rumors are concerned? Because that's what we want to know. Have you had your ear to the ground? What are people saying as far as deals that could happen?
Well, it's a lot of minor deals. You know, we expect Jahlil Okafor to get traded. We expect maybe a P.J. Tucker to get traded. Those are the names that nobody cares about, right? You guys care about the big names. The one big name that's up in the air that we don't know whether he's going to stay or go is Jimmy Butler. He of the shirt that apparently I have to Google. Jimmy Butler. Look, Chicago's got issues, and if I were Chicago, I would see that the issues are everyone except Jimmy Butler, but they don't see it that way. So there's a thought out there that Jimmy Butler is available, and the main suitor, I guess, for his services would be the Boston Celtics. They have Nets, the rest of that book of Nets pick, which we expect to be top 3 or top 4. So it's one of those things where if there's a big name to be moved, it's going to be Jimmy Butler, but no one knows what Chicago's going to do.
All right, but here's the question I have, though. So the Bulls, they go out of their way to say that we're going to rebuild, but we're going to be competitive while we rebuild. But can they rebuild with Jimmy Butler? Don't they need to trade him to get maximum value in return? Because no one of note ever signs with the Bulls in free agency. So it seems like they need to rebuild by adding younger players. And can you add enough younger players if Jimmy Butler's still on your roster?
Well, my thing is this. The hardest thing to do in this league is to get elite talent. That's the hard part, right? Because there's not too many elite players walking around. The rest, getting regular players, good role players who fit your elite players' talents, that's a lot easier. And so for the Bulls, again, if I were the Bulls, I'd get rid of everybody else and keep Jimmy and try to make it work. But again, that's even if you accept that the Gar Forman and John Paxson have culpability in all of this, it doesn't really help because they're the reasons that supporting cast isn't good. So basically you're saying, okay, so the guys who don't know how to build around Jimmy Butler, you're going to trust them to build around Jimmy Butler. Well, they've already shown they can't do that, and which is why I'm saying if I were the Bulls, I would rip out everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean upstairs, downstairs, everything.
I mean, what's the team that surprised you the most in the first half, for the good or for the bad?
Well, Portland in the bad. I did not see them being this bad. I thought they overachieved last year. I was actually one of the few people saying that, look, the Blazers aren't that good. And everyone's excited about them because they had a nice season last year. They did better than we expected. And then in the playoffs, they got lucky when Paul and Blake Griffin got hurt, in that Clippers series. So they won a series that they probably wouldn't have otherwise. But I didn't think they'd be this bad. I mean, this is really disappointing. They're on the outside looking in on the playoff picture, and they're better than that. So that's a big surprise. I thought the Wizards would be good, but then they started the season so poorly that I guess I'm surprised now that they're this good, even though this is kind of where I thought they'd be before the season started.
Amin Elhassan's our guest on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. How do you think, Amin, that Steve Kerr is going to handle this whole Westbrook-Durant thing this weekend? Do you think he just puts them on the floor at the same time early in the game and is done with it?
Well, why would he do it? This is what I don't get. Kevin Durant is Steve Kerr's player. He's not, Steve Kerr's not just some random other Western Conference coach. He coaches Kevin Durant. So if you know this is a sensitive situation, an uncomfortable situation, why would you force him to go through that when you can just – they won't sit next to each other on the bench. When one guy's in, the other guy's out, vice versa. It seems pretty easy to me. I think people are all sitting around thinking that Steve Kerr is here for our enjoyment. So, hey, guys, you know what would be funny? America wants to see this happen. So, Kevin, I know you're going to hate me for this for the rest of the year, but go on out there and show the world that you and Russ ain't that bad. It's just I don't understand why people think that Steve Kerr is under any obligation to play them together.
What do you like about the All-Star Saturday format? Is there something that you would change, or do you like it the way it is?
I would change the whole weekend. I know we talked about I went to the NHL All-Star game. Mm-hmm. It was my first time ever going, and it blew my mind because their format was so different. What they do is they split their All-Stars up by division. So you got 4 teams, and these 4 teams compete on Saturday in the skills competition and all that. And then whoever wins Saturday night gets to pick who they play on Sunday. So you play, it's almost like a mini tournament. You know, the 2 divisions play against each other, and then the other 2 divisions play against each other, and the winners play in the championship game. And the winner of that championship game takes home like $3 million in cash. So I'm of the thought that, look, the All-Star game is not a serious thing. Let's open up the voting, not by conference, just let's take the 24 best All-Stars, split them up into teams of 6, and then go at it like that. Have each team have a representative on skills competition. Then whoever wins that, the teams can pick who they're going to play against based on, we're going to take the weakest team against the strongest team, and then have some competition there for that championship game because guys want to take home a lot of cash if they only have to split among 6 of them.
I want to go back to the Durant-Westbrook thing, Amin, real fast. I like what you said. It's interesting. It's different than how I feel. I'm one of those guys who thinks that Kerr should just put him out there and just kind of squash it. Wouldn't he be doing Durant, though, a service by putting him with Westbrook so maybe the rest of the year Durant doesn't have to keep answering questions about Westbrook and vice versa if they just go out there and play together for a while?
It's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. Every time they play, we're going to ask the same questions. And, by the way, there's nothing in Russell Westbrook's behavior or mannerism to show that, you know what, you're right, we've kind of been silly, we've taken this too far. KD, I'm sorry for the way I acted. I was hurt because you left and you took my only chance at the championship away. That's not going to happen. And we're barely a week removed from these guys screaming in each other's face. One guy saying, I'm coming, another guy saying, but look at the scoreboard, though. It doesn't get resolved by playing 8 minutes together in an All-Star game. Did you see what they asked him today about that? They asked him about Durant, and Russell's response was, Fashion Week was awesome. It was a terrific time. There's nothing about him that's conciliatory. So why does everyone believe that some kumbaya moment would happen on court?
Or it could just be a great fight. I mean, I don't know. I just want to see them out there together.
But that's my point. We want to see it because we want to be entertained. But if you're Steve Kerr and you coach Kevin Durant, you have again, if you two who've been together for so long had a huge argument, would you like it if I said, hey, if I did the 80s sitcom, hey, Jeff, why don't you come kick it with me at this dinner at this spot, and then Jonathan, hey, we haven't done it this far. And then you guys see each other like, oh, what are the odds of everyone being in the same place? Both of you would be angry at me, right? Like, that's not cool. You don't do that to people unless you live in an 80s sitcom.
When it was cool, you could do that.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Makes sense.
I made it. Hood, I made a GIF out of it. Not a GIF, like a little video clip. I'll tweet it to you, man. Just literally the last time I talked to you, I went right to the internet. I've downloaded the clip. I clipped it all, and I was like, I'm going to use this sometime.
All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't work too hard. I did send you a picture of Jimmy Butler on Twitter, so I'm not crazy for bringing it up because it is burning up Twitter right now, and I thought you'd be have seen that. But thanks, man, for your time, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, okay?
Cool. Thanks a lot.
All right, that's Amin Elhassan live in New Orleans on ESPN Radio.
He's crazy.
Coming up next, we lost another legend in the world of professional wrestling.
Oh.
Happens a lot in wrestling, but, we lost a legend.
Yeah.
Today. We'll tell you who. Coming up next, Dickerson and Hood in for Bomani. This is The Right Time on ESPN Radio.
I guarantee those producer types are probably going to hate me.
Hear how it all went down at the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game with Peter Rosenberg Monday morning on Mike and Mike, 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Right time with Bomani Jones. No Bomani today. He's off. Jonathan Hood, Jeff Dickerson and Hood are filling in. And choose Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline for the best total engine protection you can get. Very sad day for wrestling fans, and we are both wrestling fans for a long time. And I grew up in the 1980s. That was my wheelhouse of professional wrestling, and I loved George the Animal Steele, who had a very hairy back, very hairy front, a bald head, and a green tongue.
Hairy everywhere.
And, really wouldn't talk. He would grunt a lot. Just kind of a big, hairy, loving American. And he died today at the age of 79. So very sad to learn that George the Animal Steele has passed away.
Well, you should be up there to eulogize him after that, boy. Hairy back, hairy front, bald head, green tongue, dead. I'm Jeff Dickerson. No, it is a sad day. Actually, a sad week. Chavo Guerrero passing away, who had that great rivalry with Roddy Piper in Los Angeles back in the day in the late 70s, early 80s, and Chavo Classic at the WWE, and now George the Animal Steele. Here's a guy here. It was one of my first wrestling interviews. And when you and I were working at the same station at the time, and the program director told me, he says, I got a great idea. I want you to interview George the Animal Steele. And I said, you want me to talk to George? Yeah, he's coming into town. We want you to interview him. I'm like, okay. So he goes, here's his number. So I get his number. So this is pre-internet. So I don't know that George the Animal Steele's real name is Jim Myers. Okay, so I don't know that he's James Myers. So I call his house in Detroit, and a woman answers the phone. Hello. Hi. George Steele, please. One moment. George, someone's asking for George Steele. And so I'm just waiting patiently because all I've seen on the television is and the green tongue and him not talking for 20 years on television, right? So obviously I got the butterflies because I'm thinking I'm going to talk to someone who hasn't spoken on TV in 20 years. I don't know what this guy's going to sound like. And all of a sudden you hear the receiver pick up. Honey, got it. Hello. And it's George the Animal Steele. And I go, George? Yeah, it's me. How's it going? Like, I'm in Chicago and we have this interview. Yeah, no problem. Tell me what time. And it's just like you're not used to him having like complete sentences, a complete mark-out moment. Like I'm talking to a guy with a green tongue, a hairy back, and a hairy front, as you mentioned, eating turnbuckles, being nuts on television, and he's speaking complete sentences like, yeah, you know what? 4:30 really works out well for me. Just give me a call. I'll be here in my office. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Have a great day. God bless.
I was engrossed in this Wall Street Journal article. I'm sorry. I missed your call. I was waiting, and I told my wife I'm going to be getting a call from a young gentleman, and I'm just reading about the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ, and I just forgot.
Jim, it's someone's asking for George Steele. Got it, honey. Hello. Wait a minute. It's a guy with a green tongue that couldn't talk, but he's speaking in complete sentences, like complete markout, like, yeah, we'd like to have you on. Oh, yeah, no problem. 4:30 works out real well for me. I'll be in my den. Just give me a call. God bless. Take care. George Steele. But here's the guy here that was very learned man. He was a teacher, Jeff. Can you imagine that? That guy was a teacher and he was a coach. He talks about, after his, before his wrestling career, after his wrestling career, really mentoring young kids. So he was more than just the animal. He did a lot of things for a lot of people.
We had a master's degree. If you read the story on ESPN.com, it's one of our top stories on page 1. He had a master's degree. He played his role to perfection, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he did. And maybe eating all that turnbuckle was good for you. Maybe that's a health kick. I mean, he lived till he was 79. Maybe the stuffing is good. It's got the vital nutrients.
He was amazing. There is one thing that he said that I don't think you'll like very much in that interview that I did with him. So I eventually talked to him. I get over my issues that this guy is actually speaking with such profundity and speaking with clear sentences and and he was amazing. But he did say in the interview, I asked him about, obviously, WrestleMania 3, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat against Macho Man Randy Savage. Of course, and George Steele was in the corner of Ricky Steamboat, right?
And did he push Macho Man off the top rope to
That's right.
set up the win for Steamboat? Yeah.
People consider that one of the greatest matches ever, in the history of the business, especially in a big event. And I asked him about that match, and I'm thinking he's going to give me like a 2 or 3 minute answer about, hey, it's 93,000 people at the old Pontiac Silverdome, the biggest event ever in the history of the WWE, as far as Hogan and Andre and all that, and how Savage and Steamboat stole the show. I'm looking for that, right? And he goes, yeah, I saw that match like 50 times before that WrestleMania match. It wasn't that good. I saw it already.
Oh, well, yeah. Then they had to rehearse it forever, right? Because there were so many moves.
Well, they had like 50 house shows all over the country. You had to, it's not like the MMA where you have that one fight and it could be one round and out. I mean, you're going across the country in house shows, non-televised events to try to get this right. And yeah, it was like one of the most perfect matches that you'll find, and he just blew it off like, yeah, I saw that match already 50 times before that. Wasn't that good to me.
I saw that in Charlotte 3 months before WrestleMania.
We were in South Bend and saw that same match, Wasn't that good. What?
But that's how it was, though, because those weren't televised, and no one, unless you were in the audience that day, you never saw that match. There was no internet. There was no, videos posted anywhere. So that's why they were able to pull that off.
I was disappointed in his answer. I wanted more, and he gives me wasn't that good a match. Steamboat's at like one of the greatest of all time. I saw it in Des Moines. No big deal.
It was better in Poughkeepsie. All right, so George Steele, rest in peace, age 79. Coming up next, back to the NBA, and Draymond Green, Jonathan, says his comments on James Dolan came off the wrong way. We'll discuss that next. Dickerson and Hood in for Bomani. It's the right time on ESPN Radio.
Hey, baseball fans, this is Buster Olney. Mark your calendars because the daily edition of the Baseball Tonight podcast returns on Tuesday, February 21st. Make sure you subscribe to the show now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
I'm Jamel Hill, and on the latest OG podcast, Michael Smith and I will discuss coaching against each other in the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game, or how my team is going to whoop his. Check it out.
The NBA All-Star Game this Sunday.
Here's Curry behind the back, half-court heave on its way, and he hits it!
Coverage begins Sunday at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.